Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we are going to talk about the debugging code in Selenium. Now, we have talked a lot about how to write codes in Selenium. We have gone through a lot of methods. In fact, we have a test series on Selenium where we have done the complete codes for using different types of uh, locators and performing different commands in Selenium. Now, we'll see how to debug code in Selenium. So if we talk about debugging, so it's very important to know about what is debugging. So debugging is a process to identify, analyze, and fix bugs or error in software code. So the goal is to ensure the program operates correctly and efficiently. So basically, debugging works for analyzing, fixing the bugs or errors in the software code, basically the codes that you write. Now, debugging involves this following steps. Like first one, identify errors. So when you write a code, it's necessary to know that where the error occurs. Now, usually when you run, you get in console that, okay, at this particular line or this particular method is not executing. But through debugging, you can identify that at which point basically you are having that error. So straight away you can go to that point, see what value is passing and execute accordingly. So the second one is that analyze the issue. Look at the test code, output to figure out what's wrong. So the second point is that about like we are figuring it out, we are doing the analysis of the output, whatever we are getting through debugging. So we can at least get an idea that where exactly we are going wrong. Use tools. Utilize debugging tools in your development environment like breakpoint and step executions to investigate the problems in details. So how, like if you have a code of 50 lines, 40 lines of code, so you have to put certain breakpoints. You have to stop the execution at certain point just to break the code in part by part. So when you break the code in part by part, you start getting the flow of code or just start analyzing the problems and it becomes easy to fix the problems. Next one, fix the problem, correct the errors in test script based on your findings. Last, verify issue, rerun the test to show that the problem is fixed and no issues have appeared. So basically, when you do debugging, you come across basically these steps. So you have to identify these steps to just to do debugging. Now, why debugging? So you have written the code, everything is fine, but why debugging is required? So debugging is required just to ensure accuracy. First thing, debugging helps verify that the automated tests are performed as intended and catching the right issues in the software being tested. So basically, debugging helps to maintain the accuracy of your code. So you identify the issues, perform and catch the right issues in the software, enhance reliability. By fixing bugs in test script, you made automation suite more reliable and less prone to failures due to script errors. Now, by doing all of this saves times. Like when you do debugging, it ensures that the code runs correctly and you avoid the need of repeating manual testing. So this reduces the time of finding and fixing errors. Improve test coverage. Well debugged scripts can be expanded and reused, increasing the scope of testing and improve the overall quality of software. Now, these are the common issues when you come across basically when you test a code or basically for performing the testing process, you'll come across these common issues. And these issues you have to resolve while debugging. So the first one is locator issues. Second one is synchronization problems. Third, browser compatibility. Now, locator issues, if you talk about, that's basically related to the locators. When you locate the elements, so you'll get the errors like no such element exception. So certain elements that's available, but still you'll get an error that, okay, no such element is there. So these are the locator issues. Like synchronization issues, test fail because the script runs faster than the page loads. So you'll come across these problems. If you are into coding, you have the idea of these problems because it's obvious you have come across this at some point. The last one, browser compatibility. The thing is that right now you are testing in Chrome, later you are testing in some other browser. So there is chances of the scripts not running at different browsers. So that is the third point. Now you have two more points. pop-up handling. Like usually when you run test cases, you'll come up with some unexpected alerts and pop-up. This will also stop the flow of code. Driver compatibility, like the driver that you are using can lead to error in executing the test. Like sometimes the driver updates because of some other issues. You can have some driver related issues. And last, flaky test. The test that sometimes pass, sometimes fail without any change in code can lead to unreliable test results. So basically, these common issues you will come across when you are doing debugging. Now, these issues you have to resolve through debugging. Now, this is a complete overview of debugging. Now, once you have got the idea of debugging, it's obvious that you'll have in mind that how these debugging issues comes up and how we are resolving it. So I'll just give you a glimpse of that. We'll try a practical code. So this is the website demo ITLearn 360. So I'll try to track the title of this page and see how it runs. So I'll put some errors expectedly so that you identify that, okay, this is the error point, and you have to see while debugging, do it tracks it or not? We get the track of that thing or not, and how we do debugging. So basically, this is the code, and I have written the code beforehand for this. So it's a simple TestNG code. Now here you see I have created two methods, one as page title, where I'm just comparing the title. So knowingly, like this is my expected title, this is what I'm expecting, and actually what I get through title, that, and then I use asserts equal to compare both the titles, the one that's expected and one that I get actually. If both matches, obviously the test case will pass. And I've kept two more methods, one where I have set up and the next one where I have the tear down process where we are closing the browser. Now, if I run this code, let me run this code to just say what error I'm getting. So if I run this code, it's obvious you'll have an error at some point. Like here you see the code executed, and let's wait for the console output. So it says one failure. So I have not got the expected output whether test case passed or failed, because here you see in the console part, I've got this failure thing, failure. And also it says null point exception. Now it's fine that you have got null point exception, but you need to know that at what point and where the code is breaking. So null point exception is basically something related to browser. So what I've done here is, now this point I'm telling you that, okay, this is the point where I've done a mistake, but again, when we do debug, we'll follow that too. So here you see I've written WebDriver browser object is equals to null. And here also I've defined WebDriver browser object is equals to new Chrome driver. So this thing, the opening the websites and all, this stays for this particular method that is set up. And at the same time, I'm working with the here outside, like in globally, I have defined the browser object as null. So it's obvious that at this point, the code will work fine. But when it comes to the code level, that is when it comes to the test cases, here the browser object value will be null because in global, I have defined this as null. Now, from here, through the exception or through the error, I got an idea that it's no null point exception and it's mentioned Chrome driver browser object is null. So knowing that browser object is null, I'm going to put the breakpoints at that level. So the first place where you come across the browser object is this. So I do right click, I go to line number 12 here, do right click and select this toggle breakpoint. I do this. So now a breakpoint is set here. But wait, after that, I go to this point where I'm using the browser object. So I'll set a breakpoint here too. I go here, right click, toggle breakpoint. This is the second breakpoint. Third breakpoint, I'll put at this. So the places where you are having the browser object or basically are using, you can put the breakpoint there. The last time, what I did right click, I went to run as, and I did TestNG. Now this time you have to move your system to debug mode. So this time you select debug as and do click on TestNG test. Now you see the code executes and you see multiple slides opening. Now this is the section where it says that debug. Along with Project Explorer, you have the debug thing. Now at the time of debug, you have to run the code and step by step at every point, like you have set a breakpoint here, 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 and so at 4 points the code will go and you will see like, okay, the first point, the website opens because everything was fine. So here, when it comes, everything is fine, this will work. But when it comes to the second step, the code will break there. So just through the flow of code, you'll get an idea that, okay, at the second point, it's breaking. As well as here, it's mentioned what breakpoints you have set. You have set 4 breakpoints. See, these 4 are ticked. So you have set 4 breakpoints. One at page title, that is here. Next one at setup, and the next one as tear down, that's the last one. So at these 3 points, I guess you have set the breakpoints. Okay, cool. So now this is the start point. So at these 3 points, you have set the breakpoints. Now on top most left corner, you see this play button. It's like you have to click on this, and when you do, the flow of code starts here. This is the first point where it comes. Okay, again do run. It comes to the second point. Now I said the first point will work because WebDriver has some value inside that method. So the website opens. But at the next step, it breaks straight away. So again, I click the play button. So it's marking that first. Now you see, if I go a step back, now you see step over. Here you see these buttons, step over and step return. So these 2 points, step over means next one, step into. So it's like you'll go to that particular point. So when I say step into, so here it gives you that the description of your error. Again, when I go a step back, so here again it says that, okay, basically here it's showing you the exceptions that's causing at that point. Okay, so let me set up this error again. Go to debug, do TestNG. Cool. Now, just one thing that I missed, I should go to that particular point and show you what exactly the values are passing over there. So this is the first point. The website opens, fine. And at this point it breaks. Now here I'll go. This is the expected title. So I see this in the expected title. It shows that, okay, this is what the title is. Now this is the actual one which we are expecting. So this is not executed yet. When I click on this, that point executes. And then it comes to the last point. That is my last breakpoint. So this was my first one that executed. Second one, it went. Third is this. Now when I do, then it throws an error. So it's obvious that I have a failure related to browser object. So basically something wrong with the browser object dot close and here browser object to get title. So now I will come. I'll just remove this null from here, assuming knowing that browser object is my problem. I save this. And now when I do debug, you see the complete process will run without any error. See, again, I click the next button. It opens, it executes. Here it waits to get the title, checks, and this time, now here again it shows because browser object is null. Yeah, now here you see it's because now if I am not defining anything here, in global, basically I put the WebDriver browser object here too. So I have to remove this WebDriver browser object from here because that remains for some specific method. Now it becomes the value, whichever value I stored, that becomes global. So it becomes like now this will be available for every method. So let's run this again. Do run as debug and do debug test. Again, executing the first point where it's set up at line number 27. So in see debug section, it's also mentioning what's going around everything. Now when I run this, it comes to the second point here. It okay opens website, take the title, and again next step, fine, executed, test case passed, everything is working fine. So basically it mentions the error. Now, though you have set the breakpoints, the code is not breaking. So that means the debug is solved. So if you set the breakpoint after some point of execution, the code execution will stop at that breakpoint. And as many as test step you add, you can keep adding. So that's how we do debugging. That's how we analyze the debugging, and that's how we fix them all. So this is a complete overview of debugging. We'll talk more about it in our upcoming videos. That's all in this video. See you next video. Bye bye, and thank you.